All right, we'll try this one more time, and if it doesn't work, then we'll just chuck it up to technical difficulty Wednesday. But hopefully it's working, so let me know. Give it a sec. Okay, hold on, let's see. Is it blue? Hold on, let's see. It's working? Okay, cool. I don't know. I don't know what it was before, but sometimes stuff happens, sometimes things go awry. But we're here now and it's all good. And we got a couple of things to discuss today. And after today's stream, I'm gonna take it easy a little bit. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna play some video games. I'll be leaving for St. Louis on Friday. And okay. All right. Okay, cool, perfect. But yeah, but I'll be leaving for St. Louis on Friday and I'll be there for a couple of weeks. So overall, I'm really looking forward to that. And once I get to St. Louis, I'll be a bit more settled, but you know how it is before you're traveling and stuff. So I'm gonna try to get let's see. I think I'm gonna play some probably Zelda. I'm probably gonna hop on Zelda. I'm always playing Zelda. Tears of the Kingdom, definitely the best Zelda game I ever put my hands on. I've been playing Zelda since Ocarina of Time. I was what like five or something when that game came out, and then Majora's Mask came out after that. That was to me, that's my favorite Zelda game in terms of just the storyline. It's just real dark and different and interesting. What was it? Wind Waker was after that. No, Twilight Princess was after that. Wind Waker was after that. I actually never played Skyward Sword, but Breath of the Wild, and then Tears of the Kingdom, which in my opinion is the best Zelda game ever made, game wise. And then I'll be playing Batman Arkham Knight because that game also is amazing. And they need to make another Batman game that's on par with Arkham Knight because that game is still amazing and it came out like 8 years ago or something like that. So, so yes, that's what we own. But let's go ahead and get in to today's stories because we got a couple of things to discuss. The Supreme Court, uh, they're active. Hold on, let me close these down on this end. Here we go. We'll talk about the Supreme Court first because they're doing a couple of things today. So let's go over that. Okay. All right. So the Supreme Court to decide whether to restrict abortion drug nationwide. The Supreme Court said Wednesday it will consider whether to restrict access to a widely used abortion drug, even in states where the procedure is still allowed. The case concerns a drug, mifepristone, that, when coupled with another drug, is one of the most common abortion methods in the United States. The decision means the conservative leaning court will again wade into the abortion debate over after overturning Roe v. Wade last year. um, Altering the landscape of abortion rights nationwide and triggering more than half the states to outlaw or severely restrict the procedure, which, as we've seen over and over again, is incredibly unpopular, even with Republican voters. This is um, much more a minority group that's really pushing for like these 6 week bans, but they're in power. You know, these people are in positions of power and they're relentless with it. But the voters have spoken over and over again. Okay, let's see. The new case could be decided by July, inserting the Supreme Court into the middle of the presidential election where abortion access is once again a key issue. Oh, yeah, that'll make things interesting. I mean, just in terms of like, because there's just so much on the table that's going to keep the tides turning and changing directions over and over again. So we'll definitely keep it up with that. Keep our eyes on this for sure. I mean, how can we not? This is, I mean, really one of the most important issues in the country. For now, mifepristone remains available and not subject to restrictions the lower courts have said should be imposed on its use. The High Court determined in April that access to the drug would remain unchanged until the appeals process finishes. What's popping? Hold on. Yeah, no, that was somebody outside. I was like, "Is that the feed?" But no, we good. I was thinking it was something from my speaker, but it's not. Trent was good. We got Trent in the building. Was popping. But yeah, this issue will continue to drive people to the polls to vote in favor of Democrats, especially with down ballot elections. Outside of the presidential seat. Let's see. The Biden administration and the manufacturer of the drug are asking the justices to reverse a federal appeals court decision that, if allowed to go into effect, would restrict access to the drug. At the same time, groups and doctors that oppose abortion want the justices to go even further than a conservative federal appeals court did and hold that the initial 2000 approval of the drug was also unlawful. The White House said the government will continue to support the U.S. Food and Drug Administration's safe and effective approval and regulation of the drug. Quote, as the Department of Justice continues defending the FDA's actions before the Supreme Court, President Biden and Vice President Harris remain firmly committed to defending women's ability to access reproductive care, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said in a statement. Okay, so let's see. Okay, yeah. So here's a chart in terms of its danger. Behind the challenge, central to the dispute is the scope of the U.S. Food and Drug Administration's authority to regulate mifepristone, a drug. Okay, we know what it is. The drug was initially approved by the FDA in 2000, but in 2016, 2019, and 2021, the FDA put in place modifications that would make the drug more easily accessible. These modifications were related to issues such as dosing and in person dispensing requirements. The changes also allowed the drug to be taken later in pregnancy. Okay, let's see. Challengers. Okay, so medication abortion is safer than penicillin and Viagra. Commonly prescribed drugs like penicillin and Viagra have higher death rates than medication abortion. Mifepristone is 5 deaths per million users. Penicillin is 20. Viagra is 49. The legal volleying jump started uh, this spring. Mm. Okay, so these are the two steps in terms of how it's taken. We got Ariola in the building. What's popping? What's going on? How's everybody doing? All right, so one pill is taken. This is the mifepristone in the first 10 weeks of pregnancy, and 4 pills of a second medication are taken 24 to 48 hours later. Misoprostol. All right, so we'll keep our eyes on this. And let's go ahead and stay on this topic. Um, let's see, one sec. On the Supreme Court. Yeah, matter of fact, let's just go on to this next one for the Supreme Court. Oh. Supreme Court to hear dispute over obstruction law used to prosecute January 6 defendants. The Supreme Court said Wednesday that it will hear a court fight involving the breadth of a federal obstruction law that has been used to prosecute scores of defendants for their alleged actions during the January 6, 2021 assault on the U.S. Capitol, as well as former President Donald Trump. As eventual decision from the Supreme Court in the case known as Fisher v. U.S. could have far-reaching impacts since the Justice Department has charged more than 300 people under the obstruction statute in cases related to January 6th. Most significantly, Special Counsel Jack Smith has charged Trump with a single count of corruptly obstructing and impeding an official proceeding, namely Congress's certification of the electoral results on January 6th. The Supreme Court case. Request for the Supreme Court to weigh in arose from 3 criminal prosecutions in the federal district court in Washington, D.C., of defendants facing charges stemming from their participation in the assault on the Capitol. Each of the 3 men, Edward Lane, Garrett Miller, and Joseph Fitcher, were charged with corruptly obstructing. Let's see, my bad, y'all. Corruptly obstructing, influencing, or impeding an official proceeding. The U.S. District Court granted Miller's request to dismiss the obstruction count, finding that while the joint session of Congress on January 6th was an official proceeding, the conduct alleged in the incident, in the indictment, was outside the scope of the law. Prosecutors did not allege that Miller took some action with respect to a document record or other object in order to corruptly obstruct, impede, or influence Congress's certification of the electoral vote. Okay, so we'll keep our eyes on this too. But either way, these people who ran up in the Capitol, they're gonna keep getting in trouble for it. Yeah, ain't nobody really stepped up too much to stop them because there's really not much of a defense for it. People are getting thrown in jail left and right, have been getting thrown in jail left and right for running up in the Capitol, and because what defense do you really have for that? So, let's see. Chuck Grassley, he's another one who's like, I think he's like 89 or 90 years old, like literally. Chuck Grassley admits he has no evidence in Biden probe. Can't say the president is guilty of anything.
Hunter Biden just made a statement here saying that he has done nothing wrong. Republicans have attacked him, distorted the truth about his family, his president, and his father was not financially involved with his business dealings. He's willing to testify in public. What do you say to him?
He has a right to make a statement. I think some of the facts probably are contrary to what he says, but the main thing is to have a process. He's being indicted. If I were him, I'd be reluctant to say anything.
He said that his father was not financially involved in any way with his business. Do you accept that?
I'm going to take the same position I've taken since 2019, that all I can say is there's some indication of maybe some compromise with China particularly, but I have no evidence of it, and I'm going to just follow the facts where they are, and the facts haven't taken me to that point where I can say that the president's guilty of anything.
Now, this comes as the House is planning to have a vote tonight to authorize an impeachment inquiry into Joe Biden, even as many Republicans will acknowledge they have yet to prove that Joe Biden acted corruptly to aid his son in any way with those overseas business dealings. But Republicans are planning to vote for it, even the ones who are skeptical, because they say they need more power to find the evidence to actually go to court if they have to.
Bro, this is such a dud. It's such a dud, man. It's unfortunately, well, whatever. Whatever ends up happening with Hunter Biden in terms of if he's guilty or not, then if he's guilty of whatever, then fine. But he really just kind of got caught up in the middle of this, but don't nobody really give a damn at the end of the day. Now, speaking of abortion and how that's really been causing Republicans to take massive L's at the polls. Contraception is a winning issue. Conservative strategists tell GOP. But see, the thing is it's like, Republicans, regardless, look stupid because it's been the Republican Party who has been pushing the pro-life movement. It's been the Republican Party who's been pushing to have Roe v. Wade overturned. So now going in to be like, oh well, we'll protect contraception. Like it's kind of a similar thing as like when centrist Democrats try to be as close to Republicans as possible to somehow win Republicans, but they always lose to Republicans anyway. Same thing. It's like, well, if someone really cares about this issue, they're going to vote for a Democrat over you over it. Like it's the same political concept. Like you can say this now, but it's just kind of like it's just too late. You feel me? Like who gives a damn now? All right, so Kellyanne Conway, she went to Capitol Hill today, and she's given the message pretty much on what it said. The visit comes as GOP presidential and congressional candidates have struggled to craft a salient message on the fallout from the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade. Trump himself has blamed anti-abortion groups and the strict laws they support for electoral defeats in 22 and 23. And several prominent conservatives have implored Republicans in the post-Roe era to focus on issues such as contraception and maternal care to improve perception of the GOP's approach to women's health, as Democrats have wielded the issue to notch several election wins. I mean, again, it's just like, oh, we're gonna swoop in and protect you from what we did. Okay, quote. You've got a fair number of Democrats saying that they want an alternative to Biden and Harris, or they may sit it out. Conway said in an interview, quote, he's especially bleeding young voters. Who do you think would be animated and interested to hear about contraception? I mean, who you would think would be interested and animated to hear about that, and who are in the prime of their years and choosing to conceive or not to conceive. Okay, hold on. Who said this? It says, quote, Republicans are like your uncle who really loves you and loves the women in his family, but he's bad about showing it. I mean, I don't know about all that. I think that's even giving them a lot of grace. I mean, what else is there really more to say about this? You know, you coming in and you doing damage control, but it's like you motherfuckers never needed to reverse Roe in the first place. Like you really didn't need to do it. And politically speaking, I mean, you could have kept the pro-life movement alive. Well, it's still alive, but basically what I'm saying is where they really made their mistake is actually going through with it. If they didn't go through with it, then they could keep rallying people behind it. But now they're taking losses because they went through with the shit. You know, some things aren't meant to actually be done. You know, some things need to remain a fantasy. Some things need to remain a dream. All right, now let's see what's up with this. We got Jim Jordan abruptly ends presser after Marjorie Taylor Greene starts ranting at reporters. Let's see what's up.
The same bank account.
Look, we have a lot of questions. Next question.
Are you going forward with contempt?
I'll let you.
There's a process you have to follow. They have to file a report. So we will begin looking at that. Both the lawyers for the Oversight Committee, the lawyers for the Judiciary Committee will move in that direction. But look, when Congress asks you to come, you're supposed to come and testify.
Devin Archer testified.
Libby, thank you so much for showing yourself. Thank you so much for showing your lovely face here today. Even if it can be only be for a few minutes, it's still good. It's always a pleasure to have you. And I hope your week's going well. And I hope you get the work done because I know you want to get that shit done.
Last thing, we also found checks from one of Hunter Biden's shell companies that were going into an account for Joe Biden monthly. They said that was a loan repayment. Oh yeah, everything's a loan repayment. Well, why did Hunter Biden will have an opportunity in deposition
But Chairman,
to
that
come in
was
and explain that?
memorialized in emails that you guys leaked from Hunter Biden's laptop.
Thank you.
I would like to have asked Hunter Biden about Mann Act violations, sex trafficking women across state lines.
Thank you all very much. Thank you.
That would have been a good question. He doesn't seem to care about that.
When Congress
He's like, all right, let's go ahead and turn it around. All right, now we got Brett Baer grilling. Actually, hold on. Let's see before we do that. Let's see. Tesla recalls nearly all vehicles sold in U.S. to fix system that monitors drivers using autopilot. So pretty much people, I think between like 2012 and like recently, who have autopilot installed, are they're being recalled to be fixed. Tesla is recalling nearly all vehicles, more than 2 million, to update software and fix a defective system that's supposed to ensure drivers are paying attention when using autopilot. Documents posted Wednesday by U.S. safety regulators say the update will increase warnings and alerts to drivers and even limit the areas where basic versions of autopilot can operate. The recall comes after a 2-year investigation by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration into a series of crashes that happened while the autopilot partially automated driving system was in use. Some were deadly. Yeah, I mean, it's still a brand new technology, regardless, in terms of it actually being ready to be used and pushed on the road. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, um, the added controls and alerts will further encourage the driver to adhere to their continuous driving responsibility. But safety experts said while the recall is a good step, it still makes the driver responsible and doesn't fix the underlying problem that Tesla's automated systems have trouble spotting for obstacles in their path. The recall covers models Y, S, 3, and X produced between October 5th, 2012 and December 7th of this year. The update was to be sent to certain affected vehicles on Tuesday, with the rest to getting it later. Shares of Tesla slid more than 3% today. Autopilot includes features called Auto Seer and Traffic Aware Cruise Control, with Auto Seer intended to use on limited access freeways when it's not operating, with a more sophisticated feature called Auto Seer on city streets. Boom. Okay. So there's that. Okay. One more thing with the Supreme Court actually today. Trump and the E. Jean Carroll mess. Trump immunity in E. Jean Carroll case denied by appeals panel, setting up Supreme Court battle. A federal appeals court ruled that former President Trump cannot assert presidential immunity in a defamation lawsuit brought by writer E. Jean Carroll, denying Trump's bid to avoid civil trial next month and thus setting up a Supreme Court battle. A three-judge panel of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit ruled against Trump, finding that presidential immunity could be waived as a defense, and that I was the president, so just let me off. That's basically what he requested. Right, literally every single thing that Donald Trump is attempting in the court system, he's losing because he doesn't have an argument with any of it. I mean, basically all this is like, hey, I was president before, so like just let me slide. Just let me slide, bro. You know what I'm saying? just let me off clean. Okay, let's see. Quote, recognizing presidential immunity is waivable reinforces, not undermines the separation of powers in the president's decision-making authority by affording the president an opportunity to litigate if he so chooses. Trump attorney Alina Habba called the ruling fundamentally flawed in a statement and said the former president will seek the Supreme Court's review. Carroll, a longtime advice columnist, is set to take Trump to trial for a second time next month after coming forward during Trump's presidency with accusations that he sexually assaulted her in the mid-1990s at a New York City department store. Trump vehemently denies Carroll's story. After a jury earlier this year found Trump liable for sexually abusing Carroll, but not for rape, and ordered him to pay $5 million. Carroll is now taking Trump to trial again, this time for defamation over his initial denials. I mean, Trump just can't help himself, man. Like, hey, he just gonna keep taking L's in the court system. That's just what he gonna do. All right, now let's check this out. A disservice to the American public. Democrats rip Biden over weapons sale to Israel. All right, so let's see what's up with this. Democratic lawmakers are frustrated over President Joe Biden's move to bypass Congress and approve the direct sale of tank shells to Israel, saying the administration needs to be more transparent about the weapons it's sending to the Middle East ally. Okay, let's see what their criticism is, though, in a deeper level. The criticism from Democrats came after the State Department approved the sale of nearly 14,000 tank shells with roughly $106 million from U.S. Army stocks on Friday. Quote, do I have concerns? Yes, I do in that regard. Not because it's Israel or anyone else, because of any funding in that regard that should come to us. Meeks and other leaders of the House Foreign Affairs and Senate Relations Committees. Okay. Oh, so it looks like they're mad about like some procedural things and not the fact that we send in Israel a bunch of money and weapons. They mad about procedural stuff. Oh, yeah, that's all this is. In terms of what their complaints are. Under the Arms Export Control Act, Congress must be formally notified 15 days before the administration can conclude a large arms sale to Israel or other close allies. Okay, yeah, that's all. That's all I'm really saying. I'm just saying that they're upset over procedural stuff, but they don't seem to be raising a fuss about the fact that the United States is really not doing enough whatsoever to protect Palestinian citizens. All right, let's see what's up. Brett Baer confronting Mike Johnson about his past statements on impeaching presidents.
exactly 4 years ago. This is Representative Mike Johnson.
The founders of this country warned against a single-party impeachment for good reason. They feared that it would bitterly and perhaps irreparably divide our nation. As the next election in 2020 is drawing so close now, and their candidates for president are so terribly weak, they obviously met somewhere at liberal high command about 75 days ago and convinced Nancy Pelosi they had to pull the trigger. I hope and pray that future Congresses can and will exercise greater restraint.
So the moderates in your caucus would say, why not exercise greater restraint now?
Well, we've shown great restraint. I mean, there are a lot of people who are frustrated that this hasn't moved faster, but there's a big distinction. I stand by every word I said in that video. There's a big distinction between what's happening now and what the Democrats do. Those are rushed sham impeachments. They did it quickly. They did not follow any of the procedures that I just described. We have 3 committees investigating this and following the truth where they lead, and they have no option in doing anything else. It's Ways and Means, Judiciary, and Oversight, and they've uncovered some alarming facts about the Biden family and their dealings.
Blah 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 blah. Boo 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 ba ba ba. Nothing, nothing, nothing. That's all I heard. I heard a whole bunch of nothing. Mike Johnson. Kevin McCarthy said, fuck the Republican Party. He said, I'm getting the hell up out of here. Can't even blame you. Oh, hold up. No, we got to redo this one in a different tab because they trying to get me to pay for this. And no, sorry, not right now. I ain't trying to hate on you like that. You feel me? I know you got to make your money, but right now I can't do it. So let's see. Let's see if the video's here on why James Comer stopped going on Fox and Friends. Oh, they hating. They not trying to show the video. It's all good. We may just okay, so they don't have the video on here, but basically he said he stopped going on Fox and Friends because Steve Ducey like questioned his approach or something like that. I mean that's basically all it was. Like there really wasn't that much to go in depth about when it comes to that issue whatsoever. Trump legal defense fund raises just $1.6 million in 6 months as former president leans into trading card business. Oh yeah, we're gonna look at some of that too because yeah, he got some trading cards where he's like young and super in shape. But Trump has never been super in shape, which is fine. I mean, whatever, but it's just funny because he depicts himself to be that and he isn't. All right, hold on. Let's see what um I'm looking at these other things. My bad. All right, collecttrumpcards.com, still only $99. The official legal defense. Okay, so it says it spent less than $30,000 on the funds it raised so far from this particular drive. But that's what Trump does. He just takes people's money. It says the fund says its purpose is to quote raise money and pay for or help defray legal expenses related to defending against legal actions arising from an individual or group's participation in the political process, but none of its expenses appear related to that mission. In fact, the Patriot Legal Defense Fund spent just $28,578 over the last 6 months, with Trump's Mar-a-Lago club getting $18,136 for banquet hall fees in late November. The second biggest payout went to Trump political advisor Michael Glasner, who runs the fund and received $2,500 for consulting paid through his public affairs firm C&M Transcontinental. A representative for the fund did not immediately reply. Quote, my last 2 Trump digital trading card collections sold out in just 2 hours, and now I'm back with my latest series called the Mugshot Edition. I wonder where that came from, declared Trump in a video on Truth Social. Hold on, we got to see this if it's open. No, it's from the same one. They just opened it up on the same one. He said, some people call these cards pop. Pop art or modern art. I wish I looked as good as I do on those cards. That I can tell you. They give me muscles where, believe me, I don't have them. At least he acknowledges that. Some people are calling these cards pop art or modern art. Some people. All right, hold on. We're going to look at these cards now. We're going to look at the trading cards. We're going to look at my man's Donald Trump with the big muscles. Hold up. Here we go. Trump hawking pieces of the suit he wore for his mugshot in trading cards, depicting him as a swole superhero. There he is. He got lightning bolts in his hand. My dude is Zeus. He coming out with the lightning bolts, with the thick chest, with the 8-pack. Nah, he's Zeus. So he got a 12-pack. He got abs where you shouldn't even have them. My dude got abs on his back. He got abs on his legs. You know what I'm saying? He got the tie that actually fits. This tie fits him, but normally he be wearing them ties that drag to the floor. You know, he got the fighter jets coming up from the Capitol. You know what I'm saying? My dude is a superhero for real. He's Thor, Thor incarnate. Yes. Oh, here we go. This is it in full. Mugshot edition. He's such a grifting. Just, I mean, he never belonged in the White House. This is hilarious. My dude absolutely never, ever, ever belonged in the White House. All right, George Santos. My man's is doing his thing, man. He is doing his thing. Radio host asked George Santos, did you think you were going to get away with this? Radio host Frank Morano asked recently expelled Republican Congressman George Santos on Tuesday whether he thought he was, quote, going to get away with the many false statements he made. Quote, I understand, the idea of different aides coming up with a resume or different aides coming up with a life story that may not be accurate, and you feel pressured to go along with that, said Morano. But even something like claiming that you were on the volleyball team at Pace University in that interview with Bernie and Sid, why do that? I mean, what votes is that going to get you having played volleyball? Why make something like that up? That's a pretty legitimate question. Like, you make lies where they don't really make sense. You know what I'm saying? They don't really make a lot of sense with. But let's see. He said Santos refused to answer the question, telling Morano that he had explained himself elsewhere. Morano then asked, "You said you kind of regret anybody that you may have hurt. Would you have done specific things differently over the course of the last 3 years?" He said, quote, "I would have started by surrounding myself with people and different people. And I would have actually not just trusted people at face value and dug more into their history." How can George Santos say this? What do you? How can you say that? This dude just said, "I wouldn't have trusted people at face value. I would have dug more into their history." Like, bro, that's like the epitome of you. Everybody should have dug deeper into your history. What are you talking about? But this is George Santos. You know what I'm saying? So, like, reasonable reflection just doesn't really exist there. He said he got hurt because he was naive and trusted everyone that came my way. Man, this dude he's impossible. George Santos is impossible. Like, there's really nothing you can do with somebody like this except avoid them. Just don't be involved with people like this. That's your best bet. When you were in the midst of everything, understanding that people get caught up in exaggerations or mistruths or outright lies in the midst of a campaign, did you think that you were going to get away with this? Or did you always realize that in the back of your brain that your trouble with the truth was going to come out? Yeah, no, he really just can't help himself. Like, what do you like? How after all of this, how can you sit here and even utter out loud, period? Even if it's just a whimper, even if it's just a whisper, how can you say, "Oh, I would have looked more into people's histories"? Like, what are you talking about? Okay, so then he responded, "Frank, here's how I'll put it to you. When we make mistakes in life, I don't think we think through them," replied Santos. What? Okay, hold on. He said, Frank, here's how I'll put it to you. When we make mistakes in life, I don't think we think through. I don't think we think them through. That's really the answer. Stupid doesn't usually take a lot of thought, isn't put into it. So that's the best way I can genuinely answer the question for you. Okay, so basically what he just said is that he's just a pathological liar and he can't help himself. That's basically what he said. I mean, it is true that when you're in the midst of making a mistake, sometimes you're not really fully aware, but that doesn't really quite fit here because you knew that you were lying. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a difference between like maybe you have a point of view that isn't quite accurate and you just need maybe you just need a few more years under your belt, a little more life experience before you really realize that, oh, okay, the way I was looking at this wasn't really quite right. It wasn't. I didn't really have the full picture there. That's when you can say stuff like that, but not when you just make up things like, my mom died in the World Trade Centers. Like when you say stuff like that, this doesn't really apply there. Oh, it was a mistake, like, dude. No, you're just completely out of your mind. Literally, literally out of your mind. Hold up. Uh, because we had another quicker show today. We pretty much out of stuff. We do have some videos. Well, there's one more video, but I'm not quite sure if we want to if I want to go over it. Um, because it's just kind of rough to watch. I don't really like watching police brutality videos that much because it's just hard. It's just rough for me to watch sometimes. You know what I'm saying? It's just, oh, we got Christina in the building. We got Christina in the building. Hello. But yes, yeah, nah. I don't know if I want to look at this, man. I'm sorry. I had it pulled up, but I just don't really want to look at it now. But I think we will. Let's check this out. Let's look at one more thing with George Santos real quick from the Legal Eagle on YouTube. We're gonna see. He says George Santos makes history while in cuffs. So let's check a little bit of this out.
George Santos has been expelled from Congress. It's shocking because George Santos had one heck of a resume. He's the grandson of Holocaust survivors, the former star of the Baruch College volleyball team, a financial whiz kid who worked on Wall Street, an animal lover with experience in the nonprofit sector, a producer on the Broadway smash hit Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark, and an actor who appeared on Hannah Montana. His life story has been touched by some of the biggest events of this era. He lost 4 employees in the Pulse nightclub shooting in Orlando. His 5-year-old niece was kidnapped by Chinese communists at a Newark playground. His mother was the first female executive at a major financial institution. But like others,
that's what I'm saying. Like, bro, like you can't when you lie like this, you can't say stuff like, well, I was just in the midst of a mistake. Like, nah, bro.
Who worked in finance in Manhattan. She was
one of the most bizarre people in the world.
Tragically murdered on 9/11. Santos has gone through more in his scant 25 years on this planet than...
Christina, I'm glad that you had a day off because after this stream, I'm actually going to take it pretty easy myself. I may put a couple of things up, but other than that, I'm taking it easy today. I'm glad that you're able to hang out with your family, and it's always lovely to have you here.
Many have experienced in an entire lifetime. As some have described him, he's Forrest Gump, but evil. Oh wait, absolutely none of the things that I've just said are true in any way. Santos's grandparents were from Brazil. His mother was a cook living in Brazil on September 11th, and thankfully she lived for 15 more years. He didn't attend Baruch College, or any college it seems. He wasn't a Broadway producer. His financial expertise consists mainly of credit card theft. None of his employees were murdered. His niece was never kidnapped. He's Catholic, not Jewish. He stole puppies from the Amish.
Top tier liar, like, bruh, like his brain is set in reverse. Telling the truth is difficult for him, like literally. Most people, we can tell a little white lie here and there, but most people have a difficult time just lying. And George Santos is on the opposite end. You feel me?
And I could go on. However, George DeVolder Santos finally has an accomplishment he can hang his sweater vest on. On December 1st, 2023, he became just the 6th lawmaker in US history and the first Republican to be expelled from the House. And you might be laughing now, but unlike most of the members who voted to expel him, Santos really will go down in American history. So today, let's talk about how to get legally expelled from the House of Representatives. Now, all those lies made Santos a fabulist, but not necessarily a criminal. As we've talked about many times on this channel, politicians can lie to American citizens, often without repercussion. However, on May 10th, Santos was indicted on 13 criminal counts of wire fraud, unlawful monetary transactions over $10,000, theft of public money, and false statements. As Scowl Owl Spencer explained at the time,
it contains 13 criminal counts, including wire fraud, unlawful monetary transactions over $10,000, theft of public money, and false statements.
And in October, prosecutors hit Santos with 10 more counts of conspiracy to commit offenses against the U.S., including wire fraud, making false statements to the Federal Election Commission, falsifying records, aggravated identity theft, and access device fraud. The criminal charges finally prompted the House Ethics Committee to start an investigation, and the committee released a 56-page report on November 16th. It says Santos stole money from his campaign, reported fictitious loans, deceived donors, and engaged in fraudulent business dealings. The report says Santos used that money to cover his personal expenses. Now, Santos has a penchant for wearing sweaters under his blazers, but he apparently used campaign funds at luxury clothing retailers like Hermes, although I've yet to see him wear anything that cost over $4,000, as detailed in the report. Santos visited a plastic surgeon and spent almost $3,000 on Botox, which may or may not have worked. He used campaign funds for other medical spa visits, including a $1,500 purchase on the campaign debit card at Mirza Aesthetics and a $1,400 charge at Virtual Skin Spa. He spent $3,300 in campaign money at an Airbnb in the Hamptons. And
bro, like, how do you do this, bro? Like, this dude he put in so much effort to do everything wrong. Like, literally, like, I mean, this is just difficult to do. Like, it really is. Like, this man, like G, like you said, he literally has a reverse mind, because it's like, bro, you put in a lot of effort to do all this bullshit.
$200 in Atlantic City. He spent money on OnlyFans despite claiming that he had no idea what that site was.
Just discovered what OnlyFans was about 3 weeks ago when it was brought up in a discussion in my office.
What do you think?
And again, what is the significance of 3 weeks ago? Like, bro, like, why 3 weeks ago? If you just and I said this before, if you just discovered what OnlyFans was 3 weeks ago, you might as well have just said, I have no clue what OnlyFans is. Like, come on, man.
And I was oblivious to the whole concept.
Now, we don't know for sure what he purchased on OnlyFans, but hopefully soon we'll find out the naked truth, expose every detail, and lay bare the stark reality. The Ethics Committee also accused Santos of stealing campaign donors' identities and racking up thousands of dollars in unauthorized charges on their credit cards to benefit his campaign and himself personally. This misconduct includes defrauding other members of Congress and their families. Ohio Republican Max Miller said Santos, quote, had charged my personal credit card and the personal card of my mother for contribution amounts that exceeded FEC limits. Neither my mother nor I approved these charges or were aware of them. The charges resulted in Miller spending, quote, tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees to resolve the situation. Miller claims he had seen a list of 400 people, including other Republican House members, who Santos also defrauded in this way. The day before the vote, Miller and Santos exchanged barbs about this, with Miller saying,
You, sir, are a crook. I know I should direct my comments to the chair.
Santos fired back by referencing accusations that Miller assaulted his girlfriend.
My colleague wants to come up here, call me a crook. Same colleague who's accused of being a woman beater.
Just a real classy dude there. Now, obviously, Santos is going to need a good lawyer for the DOJ's prosecution, but if you want a great lawyer, my firm, the Eagle Team, can help. If you've been in a car crash, suffered a data breach, or have a workers' ethics committees have jurisdiction to investigate the conduct of members that might reflect poorly on the body of Congress in which they serve. During the Constitutional Convention, the Founding Fathers never discussed the type of misconduct that would warrant expulsion. They were more concerned with providing a restraint on that power, hence the 2/3 majority requirement. There wasn't much debate about the meaning of the expulsion clause, leaving future Americans with the responsibility of figuring out how it applies. And while the Founding Fathers probably never contemplated a member of Congress using campaign funds to buy an OnlyFans subscription, that probably qualifies as something that can lead to expulsion. Now, the Supreme Court and lower federal courts have not decided a case about the expulsion of a member of Congress because members who weren't expelled haven't challenged their expulsions in court, though some members like James Traficant and Charlie Rangel sought legislative review of disciplinary proceedings that were invoked pursuant to the expulsion clause. But courts demurred because of the political question doctrine. Now, we've talked about the political question doctrine in the past, most recently in the video about whether Trump is disqualified from the presidency. Political questions are controversies that are so politically charged that the courts shouldn't get involved, preferring to leave it up to the legislature, which would almost certainly apply in the case of expulsion. Then there's also the separation of powers issue. The three branches of government would rather police themselves than have the other branches meddle in disciplinary matters. So Congress says it has the sole right to discipline its members, while the Supreme Court insists that Congress has no right to impose an ethics code on the justices. The Supreme Court has discussed the expulsion power in dicta from time to time. For example, in 1972, former Senator Daniel Brewster challenged his bribery indictment on the basis that his conduct was protected by the speech and debate clause. The court held that the legislative privilege does not encompass all legislative acts, and Brewster could be prosecuted. The court observed that when it comes to discipline and expulsion, quote, an accused member is judged by no specifically
Just a bunch of legal jargon, basically to get around the fact that George Santos got his ass kicked out of Congress.
articulated standards and is at the mercy of an almost unbridled discretion of the charging body.
Christina, thank you. I appreciate you. I'm enjoying the new setup too. Not just how it looks, but it's more comfortable. I'm enjoying it as well. Thank you.
That functions at once as accuser, prosecutor, judge, and jury, from whose decision there is no established right to review. Now, some lawyers argue it's unconstitutional to expel someone for conduct that happened before they were elected, particularly if the member's conduct was known by the voters when they elected that person. They say that conflicts with Article 1's mandate that the House, quote, shall be composed of members chosen by the people. Now, a local newspaper, the North Shore Leader, uncovered many of Santos's lies before he was elected to the House of Representatives, but I don't think you can compare Santos with congressmen whose constituents knew they were big-time crooks or were already in prison. For example, Ohio Democrat James Traficant was convicted of taking many different bribes, and Traficant managed to get 20% of the vote while serving a federal prison term. Republican Clay Higgins said that Santos was elected by the people and their decision should be sacrosanct, but New York Republican Nick LaLolta was having none of this.
He didn't work where he said he did. He didn't go to school where he said he did. He's far from rich. He isn't Jewish, and his mother was not in the South Tower during 9/11. So the argument that New Yorkers voted George Santos in and that we should wait until November of 2024 for voters to decide his fate is inherently flawed, since voters weren't given a chance in the first chance to determine who they were actually voting for.
Now, some members who
Very true. Very true. I mean, at the end of the day, the man that people voted for was not the man who he is. George Santos doesn't actually exist. There is no real George Santos. He's whatever he says he is at whatever given time.
voted not to expel Santos say they did it because he didn't get the due process that he would get in a court of law.
What I'm finding fault with is that our members have forgotten that everybody is afforded due process under law, not due process under the Ethics Committee.
But the Constitution is clear that Congress doesn't have to wait until someone is criminally convicted in cases of expulsion or impeachment. And of course, the Constitution doesn't say that the phrase high crimes and misdemeanors or disorderly behavior actually mean criminal convictions. The only other possible theoretical limitation on the expulsion power is if it's used to trample on a member's individual rights. So if Congress expelled someone because of that person's race or religion, they might have a decent legal argument, but that certainly doesn't apply here. Now, Congress does not use its expulsion power very often. Before Santos, only 15 members and 5 members of the House had ever been expelled from office. The earliest expulsion case was in 1797, when Senator William Blount, quote, concocted a scheme for Indians and frontiersmen to attack Spanish Florida and Louisiana.
Exactly. That's a great description of it. It's like electing Jason Bourne or James Bond. There is no real Jason Bourne. There is no real James Bond.
In order to transfer those territories to Great Britain. Blount wrote all this down in a letter, which President Adams used to get him expelled. As for the other expulsions, 17 were related to the Civil War, and in 1980, Pennsylvania Democrat Michael Myers, no relation, was expelled for taking a bribe. James Traficant, who I mentioned before, was expelled in 2002, and that brings us up to today. The Santos resolution passed 311 to 114, despite Republican House leadership's attempts to save Santos. That includes Speaker Mike Johnson, who voted against the resolution. Johnson is facing questions about his own finances. And since his election to the House in 2016, none of Johnson's financial disclosures have included a bank account. And as for the other corruption train wreck in Congress, Senator Bob Menendez, fellow Democrat John Fetterman says it's time for the senator from Egypt to go.
And if you are going to expel Santos, how can you allow to somebody like Menendez to remain in the Senate?
And things came full circle when Fetterman hired Santos to make a sarcastic cameo, urging Menendez to stay strong and stay in Congress.
Hey, Bobby, look, I don't think I need to tell you, but these people that want to make you get in trouble and want to kick you out and make you run away, you make them put up or shut up. You stand your ground, sir, and don't get bogged down by all the haters out there. Stay strong. Merry Christmas.
Now there will be a special election to
It's
fill
so
Santos'
ridiculous.
seat, and Santos' criminal trial is scheduled for September 2024. Now, the expulsion of George Santos has been covered extensively by more than 300 news outlets. 36% of the reporting is coming from the left, and 20% is coming from the right. And if you compare the headlines, you'll start to see some interesting framing. On the left, you have outlets saying that he was finally expelled and third time's the charm, with reference to Santos' expulsion, while on the right, news outlets usually stick to just expelled. These word changes are subtle, but they play a big role in how readers perceive the story. The first set of words might imply that we knew Santos was a fraud all along and that it was a long time coming, while the second set of words provides an understated account that downplays some of his malfeasance. Now, all this is possible thanks to today's sponsor, Ground News, a website and app developed by a former NASA engineer.
All right, so that's it from that legal. But yeah, no, that was a good way to close things out for the day. But look, that was a very, very good stream. Very fun stream. Another short one. We've had short streams this week so far, but good ones nonetheless. Again, I'm traveling to St. Louis on Friday. I'll be there for a few weeks. I'll still be streaming while I'm there. I'll bring all my nice equipment and stuff. So it'll look good. And we'll have our next members meeting the second weekend of January. Let's go ahead and get the holidays out of the way. Let's just enjoy ourselves, refresh ourselves, you know what I mean? Do what we need to do so we can relax, enjoy our time. And then we'll come into the new year very strong, very heavy. I got things lined up to where I'm good, I'm good and I got everything I need to keep on rolling. So everybody's support and belief and everything that y'all do, man, it goes a long way. Not only do I appreciate it, but it's really, really moving things forward. So let's make sure that all of us together take full advantage of the presidential election year and keep the train moving forward. But I'm about to go ahead and sign off. I got a couple of things I need to do and then I'm going to relax. So y'all have a fantastic afternoon and